Welcome back, folks. Just before we begin, it's a fun idea if you comment with your location. Thanks a bunch. Please like and subscribe. Let's get cozy and start the session. I've always prided myself on being a logical man. My life revolves around routine, predictability, and a certain rhythm that keeps everything in order. Anna and I were the perfect couple. That's what everyone says. I work in IT, solving problems, fixing bugs, ensuring that everything runs smoothly. Anna's in marketing. She's smart, ambitious, and, as I've always thought, trustworthy. We've been married for 10 years, and I've never had reason to doubt her. We have a life that many would envy. A nice house in the suburbs, a couple of vacations a year, dinners at our favorite restaurants every Saturday. I know her habits, her likes and dislikes, and she knows mine. We've built this life together, and I'm proud of it. But recently, there's been an unease between us. It's subtle, something almost imperceptible, like a tiny crack in a perfect facade. I've noticed that Anna has been coming home later than usual, her excuses sounding rehearsed, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. She says it's work, that her boss has been piling on the pressure, and I believe her. I want to believe her. After all, we all go through rough patches at work. It's normal, right? Then last week, she asked me to check her office computer for viruses. It's been acting strange, she said, her voice tinged with frustration. Can you take a look at it? I agreed, of course. It's what I do, fix things. That evening, I sat at her desk, the dim light from the screen casting shadows across the room. As I ran the usual diagnostics, I noticed a hidden folder tucked away in a corner of the drive. It was encrypted, but not beyond my capabilities to unlock. Curiosity got the better of me. It could be nothing, just work files, or it could be something more. When I finally cracked it open, my heart stopped. There, in high definition, was a video of Anna. She was with her boss, but not in a meeting or a presentation. This was something entirely different, something explicit, something that tore at the very fabric of our marriage. It wasn't just her boss either. There were two other men, and they were all over her. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut, the air knocked out of my lungs. My hands shook as I paused the video, staring at the frozen image on the screen. The woman I loved, the woman I thought I knew, was a stranger in that moment. My mind raced, 1,000 questions and no answers. How could she do this? Why would she do this? I sat there in the dark, the glow of the screen illuminating my shock and horror. The life I thought I knew was crumbling around me, and I had no idea what to do next. The video was just the beginning. I could feel it in my bones. This was going to change everything. I can't believe what I'm seeing. My hands tremble as I hit play again, needing to confirm that this isn't some twisted dream. But it's real. The woman in the video is my wife, Anna, and the man with her is her boss, Richard, a smug, overconfident executive I've met more times than I can count. But this isn't just a sordid affair. It's something much darker. There are two other men in the room, and they're all over her, treating her like she's nothing more than a toy. The video is explicit, raw, and it shatters everything I thought I knew about my life. I sit back in the chair, the room spinning around me. My mind races, my heart pounding so loudly I can barely think. How could she do this? How long has it been going on? Questions swirl in my head, each one more painful than the last. I've been living a lie, and the worst part is, I didn't see it coming. I trusted her completely. Every late night, every weekend, she said she was working. I believed her. And this is what she was doing? I know I have to confront her, but the thought of it makes my stomach churn. What do I even say? I imagine the conversation in my head, trying to find the words, but all I feel is a mix of anger, betrayal, and heartbreak. The thought of her with them, doing those things, makes me sick. That night, I wait for her to come home. I don't say anything at first, just watch her move around the kitchen like everything is normal. She's so calm, so collected, like she doesn't have a care in the world. It makes me want to scream, to grab her and shake her until she admits what she's done. But I hold back, waiting for the right moment. Finally, as she's sitting on the couch with a glass of wine, I can't take it anymore. Anna, I say, my voice barely above a whisper. She looks up at me, her eyes full of that easy confidence I used to love. But now it feels like a mask, hiding something sinister underneath. What's wrong? She asks, setting her glass down. There's genuine concern in her voice, and for a moment I hesitate. But then I remember the video, and the anger surges back. I found something on your computer today, I say, my voice shaking. Her eyes narrow slightly, a flicker of worry crossing her face. What do you mean? I take a deep breath, trying to keep my voice steady. A video. You and Richard. And two other men. For a second, she just stares at me, and then her face goes pale. What? What are you talking about? Her voice wavers, and she stands up, backing away from me like I'm some kind of threat. You know exactly what I'm talking about, Anna, I say, my voice growing louder, angrier. How could you do this? How could you betray me like this? She shakes her head, tears welling up in her eyes. Mark, don't, I snap, cutting her off. Don't try to lie to me. I saw everything. Every disgusting detail. For a moment, she looks like she's going to deny it, but then her shoulders slump and she starts to cry. I'm sorry, she whispers, her voice broken. I didn't want you to find out like this. I feel a flash of rage and I have to clench my fist to stop myself from doing something I'll regret. How long, Anna? How long has this been going on? She wipes at her eyes, her hands shaking. A few months, she admits, her voice barely audible. It started as just a way to keep my job. Richard, he has so much power, and I didn't know how to say no. That's bullshit, I snap, my anger boiling over. You could have come to me. We could have found a way out together. But instead, you chose to go along with it. I know, she says, sobbing. I know, and I'm so sorry. But it's not what you think, Mark. It's not just about sex. Richard, he's dangerous. He and his partners, they're involved in things, illegal things, and I got caught up in it. I didn't know how to get out. Her words send a chill down my spine. This isn't just an affair. It's something much darker. What kind of thing? I ask, my voice dropping to a whisper. She hesitates and then, with a trembling voice, she starts to explain. Richard and his partners are involved in money laundering, extortion, and other crimes. They use women like me to manipulate clients and competitors. They record everything as blackmail material. I didn't want to be a part of it, but I didn't know how to say no. My mind races as I try to process what she's saying. This is worse than I could have imagined. Why didn't you tell me? I ask, my voice full of hurt. Why didn't you come to me when this started? I was scared, she admits, her voice trembling. I didn't want to lose you. I didn't want to lose everything we have. I stare at her, the woman I thought I knew better than anyone, and realize that she's been living a double life. The trust we built, the life we shared, it all feels like a lie. What do we do now? I ask, my voice hollow. She looks at me, her eyes pleading. Please, Mark, don't go to the police. If Richard finds out, he'll kill me. He'll kill us both. Fear twists in my gut as I realize how deep this goes. I need time to think, I say, turning away from her. I can't deal with this right now. I leave the room, my mind spinning with everything I've learned. I can't believe this is happening. The woman I love, the woman I've built my life with, is involved in something so dangerous, so dark. And now I'm caught up in it too. Over the next few days, I find myself consumed by the need to know more. I can't just let this go. I need to understand what's really going on, what Anna has gotten herself into. So I start digging. I go through her emails, her texts, her social media accounts, looking for anything that might give me more information. It's not easy. Anna's careful, and she's deleted a lot. But I'm good at this. It's what I do for a living after all. As I dig deeper, I start to piece together a picture of what's been happening. It's worse than I imagined. Richard and his partners are running a criminal enterprise, and Anna is just one of many women they've used to further their agenda. The more I learn, the more terrified I become. This isn't just about an affair. This is about survival. But the deeper I go, the more dangerous it becomes. I start getting strange calls, warnings from anonymous numbers telling me to back off. I know I should stop, but I can't. I'm in too deep now, and I need to know the truth, no matter the cost. One night, as I'm sitting in my office going through yet another batch of emails, the phone rings. It's an unknown number. My heart races as I answer, half expecting another threat. But it's not. It's a man's voice, calm and steady. "Mark, I know what you're doing," he says. "And I know you're looking for answers. But if you keep digging, you're going to find yourself in a situation you can't get out of. Leave this alone, for your sake and for Anna's." The line goes dead, and I'm left sitting there, the phone in my hand, my heart pounding in my chest. I don't know who the caller was, but I know one thing. I'm in way over my head, but I can't stop now. I need to know the truth, no matter where it leads. The more I dig, the more I realize how deep this goes. It's not just about Anna's affair. It's a web of deceit that stretches far beyond anything I could have imagined. Every piece of information I uncover leads to more questions, more fears. I'm not just a betrayed husband anymore. I'm caught up in something dangerous, something that could destroy me if I'm not careful. I start by going through Anna's work emails, combing through every message she's exchanged with Richard. At first, it's all business, campaigns, budgets, meetings. But then I find a thread that shifts the tone. The emails are more personal, flirty even, with subtle hints that something more is happening between them. My stomach churns as I read them, but I push through the discomfort. I need to know the truth. As I dig deeper, I find emails that are encrypted, hidden within layers of code that I recognize as sophisticated. It takes me hours to crack them, but when I do, what I find is worse than I anticipated. These emails discuss payments, transfers of large sums of money, and instructions for Anna to meet certain clients at specific locations. The language is vague, but the implications are clear. Anna isn't just sleeping with Richard. She's involved in his criminal enterprise. I feel sick, my hands trembling as I print out the emails. Each page feels like a nail in the coffin of the life I thought I had. This isn't just an affair. It's something much darker. I can't let her know what I've found yet. I need more evidence. Something concrete that I can take to the authorities. But every step I take seems to pull me deeper into this nightmare. As I'm piecing together this information, I start noticing things that make me paranoid. A car parked outside our house for hours, the same black sedan that I see at random places when I'm out. My phone rings with blocked numbers, the voice on the other end silent before hanging up. I start to feel like I'm being watched, like someone is always one step behind me, waiting for me to slip up. One night, after hours of sifting through Anna's files, I hear a noise outside. It's late, past midnight, and the neighborhood is usually quiet. My heart pounds as I grab a flashlight and head to the window. There's nothing at first, just shadows in the yard. But then I see it, a man standing near the tree line, his face hidden by the darkness. He doesn't move, just stands there watching the house. I feel a cold sweat break out on my forehead. Whoever he is, he knows I'm onto something. I quickly close the blinds and back away from the window, my mind racing. The next day, I can't concentrate at work. I keep thinking about the man outside, about the emails, about Anna. She's more distant than ever, barely looking me in the eye when we talk. I want to confront her, demand to know everything, but I can't. Not yet. I need more evidence, something that will ensure she can't worm her way out of this. In the evening, when she's in the shower, I slip into her office and start going through her desk. I've already searched here before, but I'm desperate. I feel like I'm running out of time, like something is closing in on me. I open drawers, sift through papers, until finally I find something. Another flash drive, hidden in a compartment at the back of the drawer. My hands shake as I insert it into my laptop and start going through the files. The first few are mundane, spreadsheets, reports. But then I find a folder labeled confidential. Inside, there are more videos, similar to the one I found before. I forced myself to watch them, each one worse than the last. They're all of Anna with different men, and it's clear they're not just casual encounters. These are carefully orchestrated, filmed with multiple cameras. And Anna isn't just a participant, she's an active, willing player. My heart breaks all over again as I watch, but I push through the pain. I need to know how deep this goes. As I continue to watch, I notice something in the background of one of the videos. A man's face partially obscured, but recognizable enough. It's Richard's partner, the same man who confronted me outside my office a few days ago, warning me to stop digging. My blood runs cold as I realize just how dangerous these people are. This isn't just a cheating scandal. This is organized crime, and Anna is in the middle of it. I spend the next few days in a daze, barely sleeping, barely eating. My mind is consumed with the information I've uncovered, with the growing realization that I might be in serious danger. I start carrying a small knife with me, something I never thought I'd do, but I feel like I have no choice. Every time the phone rings, I jump, expecting it to be another threat, another warning to back off. And then, one night, as I'm lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, Anna turns to me. "Mark," she says, her voice soft, hesitant. "We need to talk." My heart skips a beat. "About what?" She pauses, biting her lip. "I know you've been investigating things. I've seen the files you've been going through on your laptop." Panic grips me. I thought I'd been careful, but clearly I wasn't careful enough. "What are you talking about?" I try to play dumb, but she sees right through me. "Don't lie to me, Mark. I know you've been digging into my emails, my files, and I need you to stop. Please." "Why?" I ask, my voice trembling with barely contained rage. "So you can keep living this double life? So you can keep betraying me?" She looks at me, her eyes filled with a mixture of fear and something else. Desperation. "No, Mark, because if you keep going, you're going to get yourself killed. These people, they're dangerous. They won't hesitate to hurt you, to hurt us." "Then why are you still involved with them?" I demand. "Why haven't you gone to the police?" She shakes her head, tears brimming in her eyes. "Because it's not that simple. They have dirt on me, Mark. On us. Things that could destroy us both. I'm trying to protect you." "Protect me?" I scoff, the bitterness rising in my throat. "You've done nothing but lie to me, Anna. You've put us both in danger. How am I supposed to trust anything you say?" She doesn't answer, just looks away, the tears finally spilling over. "I never wanted this," she whispers. "But now we're in too deep." I stare at her, my anger simmering just beneath the surface. "Then help me," I say, my voice low and dangerous. "Help me bring them down." She looks back at me, her eyes wide with fear. "You don't know what you're asking, Mark. If we do this, there's no going back." "I don't care," I say, my mind made up. "I'm not letting these bastards destroy us." For a moment, she just stares at me, and then slowly, she nods. "Okay," she says, her voice barely a whisper. "Okay, but we need to be careful. We need to plan this out or we'll both end up dead." And just like that, the fragile truce between us is shattered. We're no longer husband and wife. We're allies in a war we never wanted to fight. And as I look into her eyes, I wonder how much of the woman I married is left, and how much of her is now something else entirely. I've never felt this kind of fear before. It's a constant gnawing presence in the back of my mind, and it's getting harder to ignore. Every time I step outside, I feel eyes on me. Every time the phone rings, my heart skips a beat. But I can't stop now. I've come too far. I've gathered enough evidence to blow this whole thing wide open, and I'm not about to let fear control me. I know what I have to do. I need to confront Anna one last time, lay everything out on the table. She deserves to know that I've uncovered the full extent of her involvement, and I need to give her a chance to explain herself before I go to the authorities. But I also know that this confrontation could be the most dangerous thing I've done yet. It's late when I finally gather the courage to talk to her. She's sitting in the living room, her eyes glued to the TV, but I can tell she's not really watching. Her mind is elsewhere, just like mine has been for weeks. I sit down next to her, my hands clenched into fists to stop them from shaking. Anna, I say, my voice low but firm, we need to talk. She looks at me, her eyes filled with a mix of fear and resignation. She knows what's coming. What is it, Mark? I take a deep breath, trying to steady myself. I know everything. I know about the videos, the money transfers, the meetings. I know about Richard and his partners, and I know what you've been doing with them. Her face goes pale and she opens her mouth to say something, but I hold up a hand to stop her. Let me finish. I also know how dangerous these people are, and I know that you're in way over your head. But what I don't understand is why. Why didn't you come to me? Why didn't you trust me enough to tell me the truth? Tears well up in her eyes, and for a moment, I see the woman I married, the woman I thought I knew. I was scared, Mark, she whispers. I didn't want to drag you into this. I thought I could handle it on my own, but I was wrong. And now it's too late. I shake my head, anger and frustration bubbling up inside me. It's not too late, Anna. We can still get out of this, but we have to do it together. We need to go to the authorities, tell them everything. It's the only way. She stares at me, her eyes wide with fear. You don't understand. If we go to the police, they'll kill us. They'll kill everyone we care about. I feel a cold shiver run down my spine, but I push it aside. We can't let them control us through fear, Anna. If we don't do something now, they'll just keep coming after us. We need to fight back. She looks down at her hands, silent for a long time. When she finally speaks, her voice is barely above a whisper. I don't know if I can do this, Mark. I don't know if I'm strong enough. I reach out and take her hand, squeezing it tightly. You are strong enough. We'll do this together, but we have to start now. She nods slowly, tears spilling down her cheeks. Okay, she says, her voice trembling. Okay, but we need to be careful. We need to plan this out. Over the next few days, we work together to gather the final pieces of evidence. It's tense, every moment filled with the fear that we're being watched, that someone will find out what we're doing. But we manage to stay under the radar, collecting enough information to take down Richard and his entire network. As we're finishing up one night, the phone rings. It's a number I don't recognize, but something tells me to answer it. My heart pounds in my chest as I pick up the receiver. Hello? There's a pause and then a voice I recognize all too well. Mark? Richard's voice is smooth, too smooth, like he's not just talking, but toying with me. I've been hearing some interesting things lately. It seems you've been sticking your nose where it doesn't belong. I feel my blood run cold, but I force myself to stay calm. I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, I think you do, he says, a hint of menace in his tone. But let me make this clear. If you keep this up, there will be consequences, serious consequences. You don't want to find out what happens to people who cross me, Mark. I grip the phone tightly, my knuckles turning white. Is that a threat? It's a promise, he replies. Stay out of this and maybe, just maybe, you and your lovely wife will make it out of this alive. But if you keep pushing, well, let's just say I have ways of making people disappear. He hangs up before I can respond, leaving me standing there, the phone still pressed to my ear, my heart hammering in my chest. I know he means every word. I know we're in more danger than ever. But I also know that we can't back down now. I tell Anna about the call, and we both know what it means. The stakes have just gotten higher, but instead of scaring us off, it only strengthens our resolve. We double down on our efforts, making sure that every detail is accounted for, every piece of evidence secured. Finally, we're ready. We set up a meeting with a detective I trust, someone who's not on Richard's payroll. The night before the meeting, I can't sleep. I lie awake staring at the ceiling, my mind racing with all the things that could go wrong. But I also think about what could go right. If we pull this off, we'll be free. We'll be able to start over, to rebuild our lives. The next morning, we head to the meeting. The drive feels like it takes forever, every second stretching out into an eternity. When we finally arrive, the detective is already there, waiting for us. He's a grizzled veteran, someone who's seen it all, and he listens intently as we lay everything out for him. When we're done, he leans back in his chair, his expression grim. "This is serious," he says. "You're taking on some powerful people, and they're not going to go down without a fight. But if you're willing to see this through, I'll do everything I can to help you." We nod, both of us knowing there's no turning back now. We hand over the evidence, and the detective promises to get things moving as quickly as possible. As we leave his office, I feel a mixture of fear and relief. We've done it. We've taken the first step toward bringing Richard down, but I also know that the hardest part is still ahead. That night, as we're sitting in the living room, the tension between us is palpable. We've been through so much, and yet there's still so much more to come. I reach over and take Anna's hand, feeling the warmth of her skin against mine. "We're going to get through this," I say, my voice filled with a determination I didn't know I had. "No matter what happens, we're going to make it." She looks at me, her eyes filled with a mixture of fear and hope. "I believe you," she says softly. But deep down, I can't shake the feeling that this is just the calm before the storm, that the real battle is about to begin, and that it's going to test us in ways we've never imagined. But I also know that we've come too far to back down now. We're in this together, for better or worse, and we're going to see it through to the end. The morning of the meeting with the detective, I'm on edge. My mind races with all the ways this could go wrong. I keep running through the evidence in my head, making sure I haven't missed anything. It feels like we're teetering on the edge of a cliff. One wrong move, and everything comes crashing down. Anna's quiet, more subdued than usual. She barely touches her breakfast, her eyes fixed on the table as if she's trying to gather her thoughts. I don't push her to talk. I know she's as scared as I am, but I also know that we have no other choice. This is our only way out. The drive to the precinct is tense. Every car that passes us feels like a threat. My grip on the steering wheel tightens with every turn, my eyes darting to the rearview mirror, half expecting to see one of Richard's men tailing us. But the roads remain clear, and we arrive at the precinct without incident. Detective Harris is waiting for us. He's a burly man with a serious demeanor, the kind of guy who's seen it all and doesn't rattle easily. He leads us into a small windowless room, closing the door behind us. The walls feel like they're closing in, the air thick with tension. "Let's see what you've got," he says, his voice steady. I hand over the files, my fingers brushing against Anna's for a moment. Her hand is cold, trembling slightly. I give her a reassuring squeeze, hoping to calm her nerves. Detective Harris starts going through the documents, his eyes narrowing as he reads. The room is silent except for the sound of paper rustling, each turn of the page making my heart pound harder. "This is good," Harris finally says, looking up at us. "But it's going to take more than this to bring them down. We need something concrete, something that directly ties Richard and his partners to these crimes." I feel a cold sweat break out on my forehead. "What do you mean? We've given you everything we have." Harris leans back in his chair, crossing his arms over his chest. "What you've got here is a start, but it's not enough. We need to catch them in the act, get them on tape discussing their operations. That's the only way we'll be able to make these charges stick." A sinking feeling settles in my gut. I look at Anna, her face pale and drawn. "How do we do that?" she asks, her voice barely above a whisper. Harris looks at her, then back at me. "One of you will need to get close to Richard, wear a wire, and get him to talk. It's risky, but it's our best shot." My mind races. The thought of Anna going back to Richard, putting herself in danger again, makes me sick. But I know Harris is right. We need something more if we're going to take them down for good. "I'll do it," I say, the words leaving my mouth before I can fully process them. Anna looks at me in shock, her eyes wide. "Mark, no," she says, shaking her head. "You can't. It's too dangerous." I reach out and take her hand. "I have to, Anna. We've come too far to stop now. If this is what it takes to bring them down, then I'm willing to do it." Harris nods, his expression serious. "We'll wire you up, make sure you're covered. But you need to be careful. These guys don't mess around. One wrong move, and they'll know something's up. I nod, feeling the weight of the situation settle on my shoulders. When do we do this? Tomorrow, Harris says. We'll set everything up tonight. You just need to make sure you can get Richard to talk. The rest of the day passes in a blur. We leave the precinct, but it feels like we're walking through a fog. The reality of what I've agreed to do starts to sink in, and I can see the fear in Anna's eyes. She tries to hide it, but I know her too well. That night, we barely sleep. I lie awake staring at the ceiling, my mind racing with all the things that could go wrong. What if Richard sees through the wire? What if he knows I'm setting him up? The risks are enormous, but I can't back down now. This is our only chance. The next morning, I meet Harris and his team in a nondescript van parked a few blocks away from Richard's office. They strap the wire to my chest, the small device almost undetectable under my shirt. I can feel it pressing against my skin, a constant reminder of the danger I'm about to walk into. Remember, keep it casual, Harris says as he hands me a set of keys. Don't push too hard, just let him talk. We'll be right outside listening to everything. I nod, my throat dry. Got it. I drive to Richard's office, my heart pounding in my chest. Every second feels like an eternity, the wire on my chest suddenly feeling too tight, too obvious. But I push through the fear, focusing on the task at hand. When I arrive, Richard's secretary lets me in without question. He's sitting behind his massive desk, looking as smug as ever. The sight of him makes my blood boil, but I force myself to stay calm. Mark, he says, a smirk on his face, to what do I owe the pleasure? I take a seat across from him, my hands resting on the armrest to stop them from shaking. I wanted to talk to you about a business opportunity, I say, keeping my voice steady. His eyebrows raise, interest piqued. Oh? And what might that be? I lean in slightly, lowering my voice. I've been doing some research, and I think there's a way we can expand our operations. But it's going to require some creative thinking. Richard's smirk widens. I like the sound of that. Go on. I swallow hard, feeling the wire pressing against my chest. I've been looking into some new markets, places where we can move money without raising too many eyebrows. But we'll need to be careful. Make sure everything is kept off the books. Richard's eyes gleam with interest. You're talking about money laundering. I nod, my heart pounding in my ears. Exactly, but we need to do it right. Keep it under the radar. I've got some contacts who can help, but I need to know you're on board. He leans back in his chair, considering my words. I knew there was a reason I liked you, Mark. You've got the kind of mind I can work with. I force a smile, trying to hide my relief. So you're in? He nods, a gleam of excitement in his eyes. I'm in. Let's make this happen. We spend the next hour discussing details, with Richard revealing more than I could have hoped for. He talks about his partners, the accounts they use, the ways they've been hiding their tracks. It's exactly what we need, and I can feel the weight lifting from my shoulders as he spills his secrets. Finally, I stand to leave, my heart pounding with a mix of fear and exhilaration. I'll get the ball rolling, I say, shaking his hand. Richard nods, a satisfied smile on his face. You do that, Mark. I have a feeling this is the beginning of a very profitable partnership. I walk out of the office, my mind racing. I can't believe I pulled it off. As I step into the hallway, I catch a glimpse of myself in a mirrored wall, sweat trickling down my forehead, my face pale. But I did it. I got what we needed. When I get back to the van, Harris is waiting, a look of relief on his face. You did good, Mark, he says, clapping me on the back. We've got everything we need to bring them down. I nod, feeling the adrenaline slowly draining from my system. What happens now? Now, Harris says, his voice grim. We move in. We're going to take them down tonight, but you need to be careful. Once Richard finds out what you've done, he's not going to be happy. I feel a shiver run down my spine. The danger isn't over yet. But for the first time, I feel a glimmer of hope. We're close, so close to ending this nightmare once and for all. The courtroom is colder than I expected. The air conditioning hums softly, a low, steady drone that only amplifies the tension in the room. I sit in the witness stand, my hands gripping the wooden edge, knuckles white. My heart pounds in my chest, loud enough that I'm sure everyone can hear it. The judge, a stern-looking man with deep lines etched into his face, presides over the proceedings with an air of impatience, as if he's seen this kind of case too many times before. Anna is sitting at the defendant's table, flanked by her attorney. She looks smaller than I've ever seen her, her shoulders hunched, her eyes hollow. It's hard to reconcile this broken woman with the one I used to know, the one who laughed easily and loved fiercely. But that woman is gone, replaced by someone who's been dragged through hell and barely survived. Richard sits a few feet away, exuding confidence even in his prison garb. His eyes are cold, calculating, and every time they land on me, I feel a chill run down my spine. He's not the type to go down easily, and I know that even from behind bars, he's still dangerous. The prosecutor stands and begins questioning me. I answer as clearly as I can, recounting everything that led up to this moment. The discovery of the videos, the confrontation with Anna, the nightmarish descent into Richard's criminal web. My voice is steady, but inside I'm shaking. Every word I speak brings back memories I'd rather forget. Memories of fear, of betrayal, of the moment when I realized my life would never be the same. As I speak, I see the jury watching me, their faces a mix of shock and disbelief. They've heard parts of this story already, but now they're hearing it from me, in all its painful detail. I see the way they glance at Anna, their expressions softening as they take in her fragile state. They pity her, and maybe, just maybe, they believe that she was a victim too. When the prosecutor finishes, Richard's attorney takes his place. He's slick, with a sharp suit and a sharper tongue. His questions are designed to trip me up, to make me doubt my own memories. He tries to paint Anna as the mastermind, suggesting that she used me as a pawn in her own game of survival. I can see what he's doing, and I fight to keep my temper in check. "Mr. Reynolds," he says, his voice dripping with condescension, "isn't it possible that your wife manipulated you, that she played on your emotions to protect herself?" I grit my teeth, resisting the urge to snap back. "No. Anna was as much a victim as I was. She was trapped, controlled by Richard and his partners. She made mistakes, yes, but she didn't do it alone." The attorney smirks as if he's won some small victory. "And yet you're here today, testifying against her. How do you reconcile that with your claim that she was a victim?" I pause, searching for the right words. "I'm here because the truth needs to come out. All of it. What Anna did was wrong, but she was pushed into it by people who are far more dangerous. My testimony isn't about punishing her. It's about making sure that the people who orchestrated all of this are held accountable." He tries to rattle me with more questions, but I hold my ground. I've come too far to let him twist my words. When he finally gives up and sits down, I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. The trial drags on, each day a new test of endurance. Anna testifies, her voice trembling as she recounts the abuse she suffered at Richard's hands, the threats that kept her compliant, the fear that drove her to make impossible choices. The jury listens intently, their expressions a mix of sympathy and horror. I watch her from the gallery, my heart breaking all over again. It's clear that she's telling the truth, but I also know that it might not be enough. The law is unforgiving, and the decisions she made, no matter how coerced, still carry weight. When Richard takes the stand, the atmosphere in the courtroom shifts. His arrogance is palpable, his disdain for the proceedings obvious. He denies everything, of course, painting himself as the victim of a conspiracy orchestrated by me and Anna. It's almost laughable, but there's a sliver of doubt that creeps into the room, a sense that maybe, just maybe, he could worm his way out of this. But then the prosecution presents the recordings, the ones I helped gather, the ones that captured Richard in his own words, bragging about his operations, his control over Anna, his plans to expand his empire. The jury listens, their faces hardening as the true extent of his crimes becomes clear. Richard's facade cracks, just for a moment, and I see the fear in his eyes. It's a small victory, but it's enough to keep me going. The closing arguments are a blur. The prosecutor speaks with passion, laying out the case in stark, undeniable terms. Richard's attorney tries to sow doubt, to paint a picture of reasonable suspicion, but it's clear that the tide has turned. The jury retires to deliberate, and we're left waiting, the hours stretching into an agonizing eternity. When the jury finally returns, the courtroom is silent. My heart pounds in my chest as the foreman stands to deliver the verdict. I can barely breathe as he reads the words that will decide our future. On the charge of conspiracy to commit fraud, we find the defendant, Richard Wallace, guilty. A wave of relief washes over me, so strong that I almost collapse. The other charges follow, each one a nail in the coffin of Richard's empire. When it's over, I glance at Anna. She's crying, silent tears streaming down her face. It's a bittersweet victory. Richard is going to prison, but Anna's fate is still uncertain. The judge turns to Anna's attorney. Does the defense have anything to say before sentencing? Her attorney stands, his voice calm but firm. Your Honor, my client has cooperated fully with the investigation, and her testimony was instrumental in securing these convictions. We ask for leniency in light of the duress she was under and the role she played in bringing this criminal network to justice. The judge considers this, his face unreadable. Mrs. Reynolds, please stand. Anna rises, trembling. I want to go to her, to hold her hand, but I stay in my seat, my heart in my throat. Your actions, while coerced, were still criminal, the judge says, his voice stern but not unkind. However, the court acknowledges the role you played in dismantling this organization and the abuse you suffered at the hands of Mr. Wallace. Therefore, I am sentencing you to 2 years of supervised probation with mandatory counseling and community service. There's a collective exhale in the courtroom. Anna's shoulders slump in relief, and for the first time in what feels like forever, I see a glimmer of hope in her eyes. It's not freedom, but it's a second chance. A chance to rebuild, to start over. As the courtroom empties, I stay behind, watching Anna as she speaks with her attorney. When she finally looks up, our eyes meet, and in that moment, I see everything we've been through reflected in her gaze. The love, the pain, the betrayal, the fear, it's all there, tangled together in a mess that we're both still trying to unravel. We don't say anything as we walk out of the courthouse, side by side but not quite together. The sun is setting, casting long shadows across the steps. I can feel the weight of everything that's happened pressing down on me, but I also feel something else, a small, fragile sense of possibility. Where do we go from here? Anna asks, her voice tentative. I don't have an answer for her. I wish I did. But as we stand there, on the brink of an uncertain future, I realize that maybe it's okay not to know. Maybe the only way to move forward is to take it one step at a time, to rebuild what's been broken, piece by piece. We'll figure it out, I say finally, and it's the most honest thing I've said in a long time. She nods, and for the first time in what feels like an eternity, we walk forward together into whatever comes next. I stand on the cliff, the ocean stretching out before me, its vastness both intimidating and comforting. The wind whips around me, cold and sharp, but I welcome it. It's a reminder that I'm still here, still standing after everything that's happened. The trial is over. Richard and his partners are behind bars, and Anna is somewhere out there, starting her life over, just like I'm trying to do. The last few months have been a blur of emotions. Grief, anger, relief, and a strange sense of emptiness that I can't quite shake. It's like I've been hollowed out, everything I thought I knew about my life torn away, leaving only a shell behind. I've spent countless hours replaying everything in my mind, trying to understand how it all went so wrong. How did we get to this point? Was there a moment, a single decision, that set us on this path? Or was it a series of small choices, each one chipping away at the foundation of our marriage until there was nothing left? The answers don't come easily. Maybe they never will. I think about Anna every day. It's impossible not to. Even now, after everything, a part of me still loves her, still remembers the good times, the moments of laughter and connection that we shared. But that love is tainted, poisoned by the betrayal, by the lies and secrets that destroyed everything we had. I don't know if I'll ever be able to forgive her completely, but I also know that holding on to the anger won't help me move forward. And I need to move forward. I can't stay stuck in the past, reliving the pain over and over. It's time to let go, to accept that this chapter of my life is over and that I need to find a way to start again. The trial brought some closure, but it also opened up new wounds, new questions about who I am and what I want from life. I've thought about leaving this town, about packing up and starting fresh somewhere else. A new city, a new job, a new life where no one knows my story, where I can just be Mark, not the man who uncovered a dark criminal conspiracy or the husband whose marriage was shattered by betrayal. It's tempting, the idea of disappearing into anonymity, but I'm not sure if running away is the answer. Maybe the real challenge is staying here, facing the memories and finding a way to build something new out of the ashes. The wind picks up, and I pull my jacket tighter around me, staring out at the horizon. There's a sense of finality in the air, a feeling that I'm standing on the edge of something significant. The ocean is turbulent, waves crashing against the rocks below, but there's also a strange beauty in its chaos, a reminder that life goes on, no matter what. As I stand there, I think about the future, about what it might hold. The idea of new love seems distant, almost impossible, but I know that time has a way of healing wounds, of softening the edges of pain. Maybe one day I'll meet someone who can help me believe in love again. Someone who can show me that it's possible to trust, to open my heart without fear. Or maybe I'll find purpose in something else, in my work, in helping others who've gone through their own trials and tribulations. The path ahead is uncertain, but for the first time in a long while, I'm not afraid of that uncertainty. I'm ready to face it, to see where it leads. I take a deep breath, the salty sea air filling my lungs, and I feel a sense of calm settle over me. It's not peace, not yet, but it's a start. I've been through hell, but I've come out the other side stronger, more self-aware, more determined to live a life that's true to who I am. The scars will always be there, a reminder of what I've endured, but they don't have to define me. I turn away from the cliff, the ocean's roar fading as I walk back towards my car. The sun is setting, casting a warm golden glow over the landscape, and for a moment, I allow myself to hope. Hope that the worst is behind me, that I can find a way to rebuild, to create something meaningful out of the wreckage of my old life. It won't be easy, and there will be days when the weight of everything threatens to pull me under, but I know now that I have the strength to keep going. As I drive away, I glance in the rearview mirror, watching the cliff disappear from view. It feels symbolic, like I'm leaving behind the pain, the anger, the betrayal, and stepping into something new. Something that's still taking shape but holds the promise of redemption, of healing. There's a road ahead, one I haven't traveled before, and I don't know where it will lead, but I'm ready to find out. I'm ready to take that first step, to embrace whatever comes next, knowing that I've survived the worst and that I have the power to shape my own future. The sun dips below the horizon, and I keep driving, the darkness of night beginning to settle in. But this time, the darkness doesn't scare me. It's just another part of the journey, another challenge to overcome. And as I move forward, I hold on to that glimmer of hope, that sense of possibility, knowing that whatever lies ahead, I'm ready to face it.